Hi, well, I'm really excited today. I'm gonna take this little guy and I'm gonna prep him for a Saggar fire. Saggar fire is when you use some sort of partial or container and you put the sculpture inside it and you use combustibles, organic materials. You can use a lot of things to create very cool and unpredictable effects. I'm gonna try to do this on my grill. There are videos to come on how I'm setting that whole thing up. But this week, I'm going to go through the combustibles I'm going to use for this piece, what I'm aiming to achieve, and how I prepare the piece to get fired this way. So yeah, let's start. I would like to start this video showing a little bit of the prep work that I did. It really does take a lot of work to do something without experience. On top of that, I'm a very detail-oriented person. I remember in uni for our first assignment, we had to write like a 2-page paper thing. Very unrelated side note, but ironically now I realize that the paper was on Descartes' meditations and the statement, "I think, therefore I am." Anyway, for this draft, I ended up writing 76 pages, and that just sums up for me how easy it is to get stuck in my head, so having this visual guide really helps me out. So here's a little visual guide. Here is the bear, and what I want to do next is to actually write down the recipe and just pin it to this guy. So with my visual guide and my recipe in hand, I felt ready to finally start working on the actual tester. And I want to talk a little bit about my approach to sculpting this bear, knowing that I wanted to do a Saggar firing with it and that I wanted to burnish the piece before the Saggar. Burnishing is essentially polishing the clay. What you're doing is that you compress it until it brings about a shine. And this is something they used to do a lot in ancient times for pottery. Before electricity, it was very hard to get up to the temperatures for the glazes to melt, which is what is going to happen for us in the grill as well. So in order to get a little bit of shine, they use this technique instead of a clear glaze. I wanted to do it with a sculpture. I knew it was going to be hard because it is tricky to get into the crevices. As you can see here, it has a mouth, this bear, it has small ears, it has little legs, and somehow I'm gonna have to polish those. I did try to make it as easy as I could for myself in this by just making very round shapes. Usually I tend to do a lot more sharper and smaller details like claws and feet and things like that, but I kept things really, really round, hoping that it would lend itself for the burnishing. Okay, so let's start burnishing, and this was actually the first time for me to burnish anything. I had already guessed that it was going to be really time consuming, but I don't think I anticipated it to take like the full 5 hours that it did for this little guy. But I think that also has to do with me just struggling to find the right technique, especially to get into the crevices and the right tools. After about 2 hours of polishing without any results, I did bring about a silk cloth, and that really helped me. It didn't really get the shine going itself, but it allowed me to get in everywhere and smooth it out. After that, I went back to the spoon, and that's when I was finally able to get some shine, and I think I just love the burnishing process. So let's do a little combustible inventory. I am a forager, I am a collector, I love, that smells so strong from roses still. I love collecting all types of things and drying them. So I already had quite a bit of rose petals and dandelions. I'm hoping the rose petal would give pinkish use, and I'm hoping that the dandelion is going to give some yellowish hue. In the end, don't know really how anything is going to turn out. We're really just experimenting here, but I love the idea of keeping everything organic and keeping the minerals very light, like no hazardous minerals. When I talk about minerals, I talk about like table salt, maybe some iron oxide in the future, but that's as harsh as I would go. I also made apple chutney the other day, and this is a peel of about 1 kilo of apple, which I am gonna dry in the oven. I dry them by putting on about 50 degrees Celsius in heat and then letting them go for a few hours. I put the spatula in the crack so that the moisture can leave. It's actually really important to dry all the combustibles or the results are not going to come out good, most likely. I also had chanterelle. I've been foraging the whole summer. It's actually what my main source of income has been since I got back to Sweden. So I would never set aside chanterelles just for a Saggar firing, but in each batch, there's always a lot of them that are a little bit damaged. They might have some insect attack or dinged up in a way that they're not good for selling, but there's still, obviously, those are the ones that I put to the side, and I've been doing that the whole summer to get some chanterelles to dry. So it feels really luxurious to be able to put these in. I don't know if they're gonna do anything still, but it's going to be really exciting to try and see if they leave their mark, so to speak. But if you remember the list of ingredients, you know I still want to fetch some seaweed, some onions, some banana, some jungflower, and also something that wasn't on the list, which is sand. And sand is to protect the sculpture. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And thankfully, I live nearby a beach as well as a forest and a grocery store, so we should be able to get all of that right now. So let's go for a walk together. I'm back and ready to start drying our forage finds. I dry most of them in the oven like I did for the apple peel, but I had a lot of seaweed, so I decided to hang it up. So maybe I am weird for this, but I kind of like the whole seaweed curtain going on right now. Do you like it, Davy? It's weird. Finally, the last things on my list are forage from the local grocery store, and that is some onion and some banana. And I dried those as well in the oven, and that means I have all my ingredients dried and ready. So let's do what the whole point of this video was meant to be, which is packing our Saggar. So I'm going to be using aluminum as a container here. This is going to be fine for me because I'm not going over 600 degrees Celsius, but if you're using a gas kiln or you're doing like whatever you're doing to getting a higher temp, this is not going to be a good option, but it's going to work for me and it's very practical. As you know, I'm also using beach sand in the bottom here, which I think is so interesting to see what happens with that. I read online that you probably want to rinse it off so that you rinse off the mineral because they can flux, but I kind of like that unpredictability. We'll see if I regret it later. I'm putting the rose petals in a separate parcel as well as the dried dandelion, and the only reason for that is that I'm just worried that they're gonna completely incinerate with how fine and fragile they are, and I think I'm gonna get more out of them if I let them be in aluminum parcels with a little bit of airflow. Also, just doing a really thin layer underneath the sculpture here I don't want things too heavily packed beneath it, so I just did a little bit of seaweed and some lavender there at the bottom. Here, adding different kind of pine needles, and I can't even tell you how good it smells right now. That was banana, by the way, banana peel, dried banana peel. And here comes the dried apples. Again, just making sure some air can come in, and this really isn't very tightly packed at all. It has a lot of airflow. I think if there's anything that worries me here is a little bit that its parcel is a little bit too big. Now when everything's filled up, I'm worried how it's going to fit on the grill together with coals and things like that. Lastly, I am adding a pinch of turmeric, and hopefully that's going to give some nice yellows as well. One thing that really struck me when I was packing this was that I was definitely too greedy with how many ingredients I wanted in it. I'm actually thinking now that I'm gonna make a few small tester cats and do separate parcels with like 2-3 ingredients in each, so maybe I can reverse engineer whatever is gonna happen with this, and I'm hoping something really cool happens. This was really like the main thing for this video, but before I go, I do want to just show you how I pack the mushrooms, because it's very different. With these mushrooms, I'm not really looking for a lot of interactions with organic materials. I've painted them with underglaze, and there are some minerals in underglaze that will somewhat protect against smoke and colors and all that and those type of things, but something small might still happen. But I'm using only paper because paper is a lot less acidic, and so it's hardwood, I believe, sawdust, and hopefully that will just give me more like plain kind of gray smoke than a bunch of color flashes. But we'll see. I didn't rinse this salt either, so something something might come from underneath, but we will see. I can't wait to see the results now. Obviously, I'm hoping for something really cool to happen, but I can genuinely say that even if it doesn't, doing this whole process was totally worth it. And I think I've learned a ton, and yeah, so, but we'll see. So that was it for this video. I am still learning this whole thing, learning to structure everything. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I am excited. Hopefully next week I'll be able to share a video of the results. It really depends on two things. A, when the fire bricks get here, they're supposed to get here Tuesday, but then also if we get good weather, because it's fall here and it rains a lot, so I have to work around the sun. So but hopefully next week we'll have an update. So thank you so much if you watched all the way to the end. I appreciate you. Maybe like, subscribe, maybe, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.